What is your first decree as king? My generals and advisors are all banished to the northern wastes. What? My father's empire was a ruthless, evil rule that destroyed the lives of his subjects. All those in leadership are banished. If you return, you will be killed. The crowd's roar was deafening as I ascended the steps to my throne, a throne soaked red with blood. I turned to face my subjects. There they were, the fat pigs standing there in the front with a smirk on their face, yet behind them stood the people who truly mattered, the common folk, frail and weak. What is your first decree as king? General Darius asked with a booming voice. Darius had raised me since my father never could seem to be bothered. I looked at each face in turn. These men had served my father for decades. They'd helped him build an empire on the backs of the common people. An empire of fear and oppression. My generals and advisors, I thank you all for what you have done for my father. You have truly built the largest empire the world has ever seen. I could hear some whispers among the noblemen as I spoke. And as for your gift, you are all banished to the northern wastes immediately, I said, trying to make sure I didn't show any fear in my voice. A stunned silence fell over the room. I could see the shock on their faces. What? Darius sputtered. He was gritting his teeth so hard that I could see his jaw muscles from all the way where I sat. My father's empire was a ruthless, evil rule that destroyed the lives of his subjects, I said. All those in leadership are banished. If you return, you will be killed. The room erupted into chaos. Shouts of outrage and disbelief filled the air. You can't do this to us, we built this empire, someone shouted from the crowd. I am the empire, I spat back. Before I could utter another word I saw hands moving to sword hilts and I tensed, ready for violence. Guards, I called out and the doors to the throne room burst open and my personal guards, men I had handpicked and trained in secret, flooded the room. This is madness. Lord Varlid, my father's chief advisor, shouted. You can't run an empire without us, boy. I turned my gaze to him. I had always hated that fool Varlid, the way he had always looked at me when I was a child, like I was a calf heading toward slaughter. Cunning and ruthless, he'd been the one who had always whispered poison into my father's ear for years. I'm the same age my father was when he took the throne. And I have all the intention of running an empire, just one without you in it. More shouts of protest came through. I raised my hand and the room fell silent. You have until sundown to gather your belongings and leave the capital, I said. Supplies will be provided for your journey to the northern wastes. Anyone who resists or attempts to stay will be executed. I nodded to the captain of my guard. He and his soldiers began herding the shocked nobles out of the throne room. As they left, I could hear their mutterings of rebellion and revenge, but I cared not. Once the room was clear, I slumped back onto the throne. My oldest friend and now my personal advisor, Liam, stepped out from behind a pillar where he'd been watching the proceedings. Well, that went about as well as we expected, he said with a wide grin. I chuckled. It came out as a slightly hysterical sound. Gods, Liam. What have I done? Am I a moron? He placed a comforting hand on my shoulder. Just a big one, but what king wasn't a moron? I nodded, trying to believe his words. Have you sent the messages? Yes, Liam confirmed. By now, every noble house in the kingdom will have received the news of your coronation and your first decree. The common folk will hear it before anyone with all the gossiping that they do. I stood up.